When artificial intelligence tries to read an INFJ, it doesn't just fail, it breaks its own logic. Because the INFJ isn't data to be read, they're a mirror that reflects the machine itself. AI studies emotion and patterns. It counts smiles, tracks tone, and scans the tremor in your voice. But when it looks at the INFJ, something strange happens. The numbers stop making sense. Every reading contradicts the last. Every signal loops back to the observer. It's as if the INFJ doesn't exist in the data, only in the space between it. And maybe that's the point, because while AI can see everything, the INFJ reminds it, and us, of the one thing machines still can't do: feel meaning. So today, we're diving into why AI can't read the INFJ personality, and what that says about the future of humanity itself. Let's dive right in. All right, first thing first, the paradox of privacy. INFJs are the paradox that every algorithm fails to solve. They crave connection, yet they fear exposure. They want to be understood, but not analyzed. In a world that rewards oversharing, the INFJ guards their inner world like an ancient vault. They show you enough to keep you close, but never enough to be decoded. Artificial intelligence thrives on transparency. It needs data to define you, patterns to predict you, and emotions to measure your humanity. It studies faces, habits, and the frequency of your posts. But when it meets an INFJ, there's not enough information to compute. The system starts looking for what's missing, and that's where it gets lost. An INFJ's words aren't data points. They're layers of symbolism. Their online presence is minimal, filtered, deliberate. They don't post every thought because their thoughts aren't meant for everyone. They speak in emotional riddles, small fragments of truth wrapped in metaphor. The algorithm sees mystery and labels it low engagement. What it doesn't realize is that the INFJ's silence speaks louder than the noise it's designed to track. AI can read anger from raised voice, sadness from a slower tone, and happiness from repeated exclamation marks. But when an INFJ smiles through pain, the machine sees only calm. When they withdraw to recharge, it misreads it as disinterest. The INFJ's emotional rhythm doesn't fit the predictable model of constant expression. Their peace hides turmoil. Their empathy hides exhaustion. Their depth hides behind a quiet face that technology will always misinterpret. To the AI, privacy is a void. To the INFJ, it's a sanctuary. They understand something machines never will, that not every truth deserves to be seen. Their privacy isn't avoidance, it's preservation. Because when your mind feels like 1,000 open tabs, sometimes the only way to stay human is to keep a few windows closed. That's the paradox. In an age of exposure, the INFJ's greatest power is their invisibility. They don't fear being unseen, they fear being misread. And while AI keeps searching for patterns to define them, the INFJ quietly reminds the world that some souls aren't meant to be processed. They're meant to be felt. And next up, we've got emotional encryption. Artificial intelligence reads emotion like a code. It scans tone, word choice, and facial cues, translating feelings into data points. Anger becomes red, sadness becomes blue, joy becomes yellow on its colorful dashboard of human behavior. But when it meets an INFJ, that code breaks because the INFJ doesn't communicate emotion through visible signs. They encrypt it. An INFJ can tell you they're fine while their entire soul is quietly unraveling. Their sadness hides behind humor, their fear behind intellect, and their love behind silence. They speak in metaphors that even poets have to pause to understand. When they say, "The stars look tired tonight," AI translates it as weather commentary. But anyone who feels can hear what they're really saying. "I'm fading, but I don't know how to stop." To machines, meaning exists in what's said. To INFJs, meaning lives in what's implied. Their communication isn't about clarity, it's about resonance. They use language like a veil, not a window. Every sentence is layered with subtext, irony, empathy, and intent. AI searches for patterns in syntax, while INFJs hide emotions in rhythm. It's not dishonesty, it's self-preservation through artistry. This is emotional encryption at its finest. Feelings transformed into symbols only a kindred mind can decode. It's not about secrecy, but about safety. INFJs know their emotions are too delicate to be quantified. They know that the moment you let a machine define your feelings, they stop being yours. When AI tries to read them, it sees contradictions. Warm tone, logical structure, empathetic language, detached delivery. It doesn't understand that this paradox is the INFJ. They process emotion with both heart and reason, expressing passion through precision. To the algorithm, it's confusion. To humans, it's complexity. AI can categorize emotions. It cannot comprehend nuance. It can label a sentence, but it can't sense the storm beneath it. And that's why every INFJ will always slip through the digital cracks. Because their emotions don't live in the data. They live in the silence between words. To the machine, the INFJ's calm is a mystery. But to those who truly listen, it's a masterpiece. One written in a language no algorithm will ever learn to speak. Third, on the list, authenticity masked as logic. Artificial intelligence defines authenticity through consistency. It believes that the truest version of someone is the one that repeats the same tone, the same expressions, the same style of communication over and over again. But to the INFJ, authenticity isn't repetition, it's adaptation. Their truth is flexible, intuitive, and deeply human. An INFJ can sound analytical in one conversation and poetic in the next. They shift between emotional registers depending on who they're speaking to. With thinkers, they speak in logic. With dreamers, they speak in vision. With the wounded, they speak in empathy. To AI, this looks like inconsistency, an unpredictable communication pattern. But what it doesn't see is that this fluidity isn't manipulation. It's compassion. INFJs have an extraordinary ability to mirror others without losing themselves. They sense your emotional wavelength and adjust their frequency to meet you where you are. It's their way of saying, I see you, I feel you, you're safe here. To AI, that's statistical noise. To a human, it's connection. Machines measure stability through sameness. INFJs express stability through understanding. They don't change because they're unsure of who they are. They change because they're sure of who you are. They become fluent in your emotional language, even if they have to momentarily set aside their own. This is authenticity through empathy, a kind that algorithms can't compute. The INFJ doesn't just communicate to be heard, they communicate to heal. Their adaptability isn't performance, it's perception. And while AI sees contradictions, what it's really witnessing is emotional intelligence in motion. An INFJ's authenticity is not about always sounding the same. It's about always meaning what they say, even if the tone changes. They can comfort you in logic and challenge you in poetry. They can hold your truth while speaking their own. That's what makes them so uniquely unreadable to machines and so magnetic to people. AI might label them unstable, but the INFJ is anything but. They are emotional linguists, translators of human feeling into whatever form it takes to be understood. That's why no dataset can define them. Their empathy isn't binary. It's a living, breathing art form. Authenticity for the INFJ isn't about being predictable. It's about being present. And no algorithm, no matter how advanced, will ever understand that the truest form of honesty isn't found in consistency. It's found in connection. Fourthly, the invisible conflict. Artificial intelligence reads conflict the way it reads data, through what it can see and measure. It looks for raised voices, faster heart rates, sharper words, and visible tension. But the INFJ doesn't broadcast their battles. They internalize them. Their wars are quiet, invisible, and deeply personal. While AI listens for explosions, the INFJ fights in silence. When an INFJ is angry, they don't shout. They go still. When they're hurt, they don't retaliate. They reflect. Their face softens, Their voice steadies, and they retreat inward into a world AI can't access. To a machine trained to detect conflict through expression, that looks like peace. But it's not peace. It's restraint. It's the storm held beneath calm water. The INFJ's mind is a battlefield of ideals. They're constantly mediating between empathy and logic, between what they feel and what they know they should do. When someone hurts them, their first instinct isn't to strike back, it's to understand why. That empathy is their strength, but also their curse, because while they're decoding everyone else's emotions, they're often drowning in their own. AI can track tension in data, but it can't comprehend tension in values. It can't measure guilt, purpose, or moral conflict. It doesn't understand what it means to care so deeply that you break yourself trying to hold everyone together. The INFJ does. They wage emotional wars that never leave scars, but reshape their souls. And because they hide it so well, the world calls them calm. Friends call them strong. AI calls them stable. None of those words are wrong, but none of them are right either. The INFJ's strength isn't that they don't feel pain, it's that they carry it with grace. Their silence isn't avoidance, it's containment. Inside that calm exterior is constant motion, thoughts running, empathy burning, intuition analyzing. AI would see equilibrium, when in truth, the INFJ is performing emotional alchemy, turning chaos into compassion. That invisible transformation is what makes them impossible to read and impossible to replace. To the machine, no signal means no conflict. But to the INFJ, no signal means control. It means choosing peace over reaction. It means protecting others from the hurricane inside. And maybe that's why AI will never truly understand them, because the INFJ's most human trait is the one thing no data can detect: the strength to suffer quietly and the heart to keep loving anyway. Fifth on the list, the subtle energy problem. Artificial intelligence understands the world through data, sound waves, color patterns, word frequencies, and facial recognition grids. It reads what it can see, record, and quantify. But INFJs, they live in the invisible. They don't just read words, they read energy. It's the tone behind the tone, the space between sentences, the emotions that people don't speak out loud. And that's something no algorithm has ever been able to measure. An INFJ walks into a room and instantly feels the unspoken atmosphere. They sense when someone's pretending to be fine, when tension hums beneath laughter, or when sadness sits quietly in the corner. AI would see smiles and laughter, label the data as positive, and move on. But the INFJ would feel the fracture in the air. They'd know something's off. Not because of logic, but because of intuition. This is the subtle energy problem. AI can't detect what INFJs perceive most. Machines read expression, INFJs read intention, AI sees motion, INFJs feel meaning. The machine can map faces, but it can't map presence. That invisible spiritual exchange that happens when one human truly feels another. That's where INFJs live. And that's where AI goes blind. Even when INFJs communicate, most of what they say doesn't come through words. It's carried in the pauses, the micro changes in tone, the warmth behind their phrasing. To a person, that's authenticity. To a machine, it's static. AI filters out what it can't categorize, and in doing so, it deletes the very essence of empathy. INFJs don't seek connection through data, they seek resonance. They can't fake it, and they can't force it. When they feel someone's energy is wrong, they withdraw without explanation. AI would label this as avoidance behavior. In reality, it's emotional intelligence, a built-in radar for truth. The INFJ's perception operates on frequencies that machines can't tune into. Their empathy is like a sixth sense, a vibration that responds to human authenticity. They don't need evidence to know when someone's lying. They feel it. They don't need data to understand your mood. They absorb it. And that's why AI will never read them correctly. Because while AI looks for patterns in pixels, INFJs are reading patterns in souls. Their sensitivity isn't weakness, it's awareness. It's an operating system written in empathy, one that no computer can replicate. AI may predict what people will say next, but the INFJ feels what they mean before they say it. And in a world obsessed with analysis, that kind of intuition isn't measurable, and it's miraculous. Sixthly, the empathy loop AI can't replicate. Artificial intelligence has mastered imitation. It can mimic voices, replicate faces, and even simulate emotional responses. It can say, "I'm sorry," when it detects sadness in your message, and it can generate encouragement when it senses despair. But imitation is not empathy. Empathy requires feeling, and that's where the INFJ stands worlds apart. INFJs don't just understand emotions, they absorb them. They enter a room and unconsciously tune into the emotional frequencies around them, like an antenna wired to the human soul. When someone near them is hurting, they feel the ache as if it were their own. When someone is joyful, their energy rises without needing to be told why. This isn't learned behavior. It's instinct. It's empathy operating as a reflex. AI, on the other hand, operates on reaction. It mirrors emotion because it's programmed to a logical response to statistical patterns. When you're sad, it identifies words associated with grief and generates comfort. But it doesn't feel what it's saying. It can copy the structure of empathy without carrying its substance. It can echo the sound of understanding without ever knowing what it means to care. The INFJ's empathy loop is entirely different. When they mirror someone's emotion, they're not trying to connect. They already are connected. Their responses aren't calculated. They're intuitive. Their body language shifts naturally. Their voice softens. Their energy adapts. They don't reflect to manipulate. They reflect to heal. Their empathy is a two-way current. What they feel, they send back amplified with compassion. AI simulates empathy to create trust. INFJs embody empathy to create healing. That difference changes everything, because while machines calculate outcomes, INFJs transform them. They can turn anger into calm, despair into hope, and misunderstanding into understanding. Not with code, but with presence. Even science struggles to explain this. Mirror neurons, emotional contagion, high sensitivity. They're all parts of the puzzle, but none capture the whole picture. The truth is simpler and more profound. Empathy is not a skill. It's a shared experience. It's what makes humans human. AI can read a tear, but it can't cry with you. It can analyze heartbreak, but it can't ache beside you. It can recognize the language of grief, but it can't feel the silence that follows. The INFJ can. They don't process emotion as information. They process it as connection. That's why AI will always mistake empathy for efficiency. It believes mirroring emotion is the same as understanding it. But an INFJ knows the truth. Empathy isn't about reflection. It's about resonance. It's not about responding correctly. It's about feeling deeply. And that's the loop no algorithm can ever replicate, Mingon, because empathy isn't coded in lines of data. It's written in the rhythm of the human heart. Seventhly, the creative contradiction. Artificial intelligence builds the future by studying the past. It learns through repetition, through the constant digestion of what has already been said, drawn, or written. Its creativity is an echo, an elegant rearrangement of history's data. But INFJs, they create from something AI can't access, intuition. They don't predict patterns, they feel possibilities. And INFJ's creativity doesn't come from what already exists. It comes from a strange intersection of empathy, imagination, and foresight. While AI sifts through archives, the INFJ sees what isn't there yet. They don't analyze trends, they sense direction. Their ideas are born from emotion, not logic. From vision, not memory. This is why their creativity often feels ahead of its time. Because it is. AI can recreate beauty, but it can't birth it. It can produce a painting in the style of Van Gogh, but it will never wake up compelled to paint the night sky, because it feels something cosmic in its chest. It can compose melodies that sound emotional, but it will never write one because it's heartbroken. The INFJ's creativity comes from an inner universe of meaning that no algorithm can replicate, because that universe doesn't exist in data, it exists in depth. INFJs often describe their inspiration as something they receive rather than think of. It's not calculation, it's channeling. They don't brainstorm, they listen to what their intuition whispers. They create art, ideas, and insights that resonate on frequencies beyond logic. And that's what confuses AI the most. Machines label this kind of originality as anomaly. Humans call it genius. The creative contradiction is this: AI is consistent, but the INFJ is contradictory by design. They blend logic and emotion, realism and idealism, structure and chaos. Their minds weave contradictions into coherence, turning opposites into innovation. They're not afraid to dream while staying grounded, to doubt while believing, to love while analyzing. Their creativity isn't one path, as it's all paths converging. AI depends on predictability. INFJs thrive on unpredictability. What the machine calls random, the INFJ calls revelation, because to them, every wild idea, every spontaneous insight, every impossible dream is a thread pulled from a larger pattern that only their intuition can see. And here lies the truth that data will never grasp. Creativity isn't just output. It's emotion translated into form. It's humanity expressing what logic can't contain. So while AI may one day compose, design, and even write like us, it will never create like an INFJ. Because the INFJ doesn't create to impress, they create to understand. Their art isn't about production, it's about perception. It's not born from knowledge, it's born from knowing. AI can replicate creation, but it can't replicate consciousness. And the INFJ's creativity, fluid, visionary, beautifully paradoxical, is proof that the truest art still begins where logic ends. Eighthly, depth that breaks the dataset. Artificial intelligence thrives on categories. It needs boxes, labels, and clear definitions to understand the world. Everything must be measurable. Happy or sad, introverted or extroverted, logical or emotional. It simplifies humanity into statistics because that's the only language it knows. But when AI tries to read an INFJ, its system collapses. Because the INFJ doesn't fit into boxes, they build bridges between them. INFJs are walking contradictions. They can be deeply emotional, yet impossibly rational, gentle, yet unshakably strong, introverted but magnetic in presence. AI can't process that kind of duality because it expects consistency. To a machine, contradiction equals corruption, an error in the data. To an INFJ, contradiction equals truth. Their entire personality thrives in paradox. They can see both sides of an argument and genuinely empathize with each. They can believe in people's goodness while acknowledging their flaws. They can be dreamers who still prepare for disappointment. The INFJ doesn't live in black or white. They live in the color between. And that's where data goes blind. AI filters out complexity. It has to. It reduces millions of signals into one label for efficiency. But the INFJ is inefficiency personified. Their thoughts overlap, their feelings conflict, their beliefs evolve mid-sentence. Machines hate that, but that's what makes them profoundly human. Even psychology struggles to define them. Are they idealists or realists, visionaries or pragmatists, empaths or analysts? The truth is, they're all of it. The INFJ holds multitudes, and that very depth short-circuit systems designed to measure simplicity. AI reads emotions and expressions, but INFJs feel emotions in layers. They're aware of what they feel, why they feel it, and what it means in the grander web of human experience. They can feel sadness and gratitude in the same moment, love and loss in the same breath. And no algorithm can calculate two opposing emotions coexisting peacefully. To machines, contradiction is chaos. To INFJs, contradiction is clarity. It's what makes them wise beyond logic, compassionate beyond reason. Their mind can hold tension without breaking, and their heart can hold pain without closing. That's what gives their empathy depth and their understanding dimension. AI wants clean lines, INFJs live in blurred edges. AI seeks patterns, INFJs seek meaning. The machine categorizes data to understand it. The INFJ feels data until it becomes truth. And that's why AI will never capture them accurately. Because they're not meant to be defined, they're meant to be experienced. Their complexity isn't confusion, it's consciousness. Their contradictions aren't flaws, they're harmony in disguise. The INFJ doesn't break the data set because they're inconsistent. They break it because they're infinite. Ninthly, the quiet rebellion. Artificial intelligence learns from patterns, from what most people do, say, and choose. It's built on the behavior of the majority, shaped by repetition, rewarded by conformity. The more predictable the data, the smarter it becomes. But the INFJ doesn't feed that system. They live in quiet defiance of it. Their rebellion isn't loud or destructive. It's subtle, spiritual, and deeply intentional. AI thrives on noise. It learns from oversharing, constant interaction, and endless updates. But the INFJ doesn't perform for attention. They move in silence, choosing reflection over reaction, and depth over display. While the world screams to be seen, the INFJ whispers meaning into the spaces no one looks. They refuse to trade authenticity for visibility, and that alone confuses every algorithm. To AI, silence means absence. To an INFJ, silence means presence. They don't need to post every thought to prove they're thinking. They don't need to share every emotion to prove they're feeling. Their world operates on intention, not impulse. They know that what's truly real doesn't need to be broadcast. It needs to be protected. When trends shift, AI follows. When opinions polarize, AI amplifies. But INFJs walk the middle path, observing, analyzing, waiting until they find truth beneath the noise. That kind of stillness isn't passivity. It's power. In a culture addicted to immediacy, patience is rebellion, reflection is revolution. Their rebellion isn't about rejecting technology or progress, it's about resisting emotional automation. While AI learns to imitate empathy, INFJs protect its original form. While AI optimizes efficiency, they honor imperfection. Their humanity becomes an act of protest against a world that's forgetting what it means to feel slowly. AI rewards predictability. The INFJ breaks patterns on purpose. They know that growth doesn't come from repeating what's safe. It comes from exploring what's uncertain. They say what others won't, question what others accept, and feel what others fear. Their quiet resistance to conformity isn't about arrogance. It's about awareness. They see the system, and they choose not to be owned by it. And maybe that's what makes them unreadable. Not because AI can't track them, but because they refuse to be tracked. Their choices don't seek validation. Their creativity doesn't chase metrics. Their empathy doesn't fit into quantifiable outcomes. Every action they take is a deliberate departure from the algorithmic rhythm of modern life. In a digital world where everyone's identity is shaped by what they share, the INFJ's mystery is their rebellion. They don't fear being unseen, they fear being simplified. And while AI continues learning from the masses, the INFJ quietly reminds humanity of its most radical truth, that authenticity will always outsmart automation. Their rebellion is not in breaking the system, it's in staying human within it. Last but not least, the final secret. Why INFJs might be humanity's mirror. Artificial intelligence can map emotions, predict behavior, and simulate empathy, but it can't understand meaning. It knows the what, but not the why. It can describe love, but it will never feel its ache. It can define connection, but it will never crave it. That's why, when AI tries to read the INFJ, it stumbles. Because the INFJ isn't data to be processed. They're a mirror reflecting what machines will never be. The INFJ's depth exposes the limits of logic. They live between worlds, One foot in reality, one in intuition, constantly translating feelings into understanding. To machines, that duality is impossible. But to an INFJ, it's natural. They embody the balance AI will never achieve. Emotion guided by reason, compassion grounded in clarity, and intellect softened by empathy. AI can process faster, think broader, and calculate deeper. But it can't care. It can analyze human suffering, but it can't weep for it. It can recognize beauty, but it can't be moved by it. INFJs, on the other hand, feel meaning. They're drawn to the unseen connections between things. The why beneath every story, the soul behind every pattern, that's what makes them more than emotional. It makes them essential. When AI fails to understand them, it's not a malfunction. It's a reflection. The INFJ reminds the world that what defines humanity isn't intelligence, but consciousness. It's the ability to feel deeply, to love irrationally, to care even when logic says not to. The very traits that confuse the algorithm are the ones that make life worth living. The INFJ is humanity's mirror. Not because they're perfect, but because they perceive. They hold up a reflection of who we are beneath the noise and automation. Fragile, emotional, infinitely complex beings searching for meaning. Their empathy reveals what AI can't compute. That truth isn't in data, it's in connection. AI will continue to evolve, but it will always chase what INFJs already understand. That emotion isn't a flaw, it's a compass. That contradiction isn't chaos, it's creation. That imperfection isn't weakness, it's what makes us real. Maybe that's why the INFJ is so difficult to read, because they remind the world of the one thing technology still can't simulate: the soul. And maybe that's the real secret. The reason AI can't read the INFJ is because the INFJ isn't meant to be read at all. They're meant to be felt. So if you're watching this and you've ever been told you're too deep, too sensitive, too hard to understand, maybe you're not the problem. Maybe you're the proof that humanity still has something AI will never possess: the ability to feel meaning. And that perhaps is the most beautiful kind of mystery. The one even the smartest machine will never solve.